Welcome to the Action Network podcast presented by DraftKings. I am your host, Evan Abrams, and I am joined by Brandon Anderson for some best bets for NFL Week 13. We are coming to you a little earlier this week. Listen, a special week for betting, for family, for all sorts of great stuff, but it is Thanksgiving, so hopefully you can get some of those bets in before your Thanksgiving afternoon nap. We will get to those bets shortly, but first, I've got just one trend, one fun thing that'll kind of just set up the conversation. I've seen this talked about in other places. Everybody uses very different data when it comes to betting ticket data, betting money data, things of that nature. For us at Action Network, we have 60% of tickets this year sitting at 42 and 73 against the spread, 36.5%. No matter what data and where it comes from, it's a crazy number. And the other number, which I just confirmed, and it feels like, honestly, sometimes it feels like that when you're betting every week, but 11 of the 12 weeks below 500 against the spread for those 60% of tickets or more. Now, the interesting thing is, the reason I'm kind of talking about this to kind of set the table here is public sides on Thanksgiving have been really good historically. Favorites have crushed. 40 and 20 against the spread since 2004. If you look at just public sides, 36 and 20, 500 ATS or better every year since 2014, 12 of the last 13 years. So you've got kind of two different things coming at you from what we've seen so far this season with a little bit of a topsy-turvy year and some historical stuff for Thanksgiving. Now, if you look at DraftKings, they've got, as of now, we're recording about Tuesday night, about 57% of the tickets on Cincinnati. 62% of the tickets on the Cowboys. And at Action here, we mirror that. It's about the same. So basically heading into the weekend, the Cowboys and Bengals might be two sides that kind of fall into this. Brandon, I'll bring you in now. Obviously, don't have to comment anything on really the ticket nature here, but more or less the Bengals and the Cowboys. We're going to talk about the games in a second, but interesting that they feel like they're popular.
It is interesting. I'm not so surprised with the Bengals. Joe Burrow's back, and it certainly, we'll get to that one in a bit. That one screams, you got to get on the Bengals here. Like, it feels like a trappy line to me just because of what we know with Burrow. I'm surprised by Cowboys. I was on Chiefs on the look ahead at 3.5. Certainly, we literally talked about it. There's no way you're going to put this below 3. They'd get so much money on Kansas City. And it's not below 3, but it's at the 3. I'm currently at minus CLV, which is not the goal on the look ahead. I did not expect this to be a Dallas spot. And I don't know, maybe I should have. I was on Dallas against the Eagles last week, so I expected that result potentially to go that way. And if you expect that, then maybe that's the direction the line goes as well. But a lot of public belief in the Cowboys, and maybe finally folks starting to disbelieve a little bit in the Chiefs. Not me. I got the Chiefs shirt on today. I'm not backing down from the Chiefs pick. We'll get into that. And yeah, like you said, public favorites especially has been a very popular trend. And Thanksgiving is a very trendy spot and a very favorites spot for me over the years. So that's kind of where I start with these games. And it's a really good slate this year. I'll say that. We're going to lean very heavily on today's show into Thanksgiving and Black Friday and really go deep on all 4 of these games. You do the math, there's not a lot of great teams left for Sunday. Like, be prepared to kind of get your tryptophan nap in on Sunday afternoon. It doesn't look like the greatest slate. We'll get to some of those as well, but we're definitely getting, the treat up front here for the holiday, I think.
Yeah, we talked about what percentage we wanted to hit on Thursday, Friday versus Sunday. It's a fair 70-30 show, but it's that time of year. We have a great deal on Action Pro as part of our Black Friday sale, which is live right now. So sign up now for an annual subscription to get 50% off your first 3 months. Action Pro users get real-time alerts as soon as experts like Sean Kerner, Nick Giffen, Stuckey, Chris Raybon track their picks in the app. Without Action Pro, you'll need to wait 30 minutes to get alerts and risk not getting the best of the number. You'll get real-time money percentages to see where the smart money is flowing, access to our NFL player prop projections, powered by Sean Kerner. This deal is over soon, so go to actionnetwork.com/pro to sign up now for an annual subscription, and your first 3 months are 50% off. That's actionnetwork.com/pro. All right, time to get rolling here. Week 13, but most importantly, Thanksgiving and Black Friday, best bets. If you want to tell some of the action here, look for the ClickSlip link in the podcast and video description, or go to actionnetwork.com/bet now, BETNOW, bet now. All right, Brandon, you got your pick six, your six bets, your six money lines. But this week, completely different. What are you doing?
Yeah, so no pick six this week. So just kind of turn back the curtain a little bit. So we're recording this Tuesday dinner time, which is about 48 hours ahead of where we normally would. So no pick six this week. Instead, we're doing the Thanksgiving spread here starting out right away. And that also means we have to attack the slate a little differently because by Tuesday midday, there aren't really even a lot of lines up for props and, all the escalator type stuff that I usually like to attack on a Sunday, just not really available yet. So there are those all for Thanksgiving. We're going to go kind of Thanksgiving style here. So we're going to start with the main course. We'll do in-depth on all three Thanksgiving games and Black Friday as well, kind of like we do our Monday night previews. So we'll do a preview of the game. I've got to pick a side on all four of the games. We'll talk props and some of the kind of Thanksgiving fun long shots at our sponsor DraftKings, some of those sort of things. Then we're going to get to the sides and leftovers. So that's the Sunday picks, right? The leftover slate. We'll get to some of the sides then. And then also, no look ahead this week because, again, too early in the week to even have look ahead lines up, but a little dessert perhaps for our Thanksgiving feast. I've got a little tasty morsel of a futures long shot to add in at the end of our podcast that will go with our Thanksgiving course. So, yeah, main course, like you said, heavy on the Thanksgiving and Black Friday. And then we'll get to a few other picks at the end and have some fun today.
Yeah, there's nothing more like an entree when you talk about the NFC North and the Lions and, of course, David Montgomery. So why don't you get us started? What are you doing with that game?
Yeah, Lions are below the key number here, which is we talked about on Sunday night, what I was hoping to see here. So I'm going to take the Lions -2.5 against the Packers. I just think the Lions are a little bit better at everything, honestly. Not by much, just a little bit. By DVOA, Detroit's slightly ahead, offense and defense, way ahead in special teams. They did lose in week 1 to Green Bay, but they had won 6 of the last 7 in this rivalry before that. So this is a good matchup for Detroit in recent years. Detroit, I think, is also healthier right now. Green Bay's offense in particular. Tucker Kraft has been a huge loss. Jacobs, we'll see what we get with him if he plays this game, but probably not his top version. The line has been banged up. The receivers are still banged up, but we're just not getting the top version of the Packers offense right now. And I think, too, you look at the matchup here, we know by now, to a maddening degree at times, honestly, both these teams want to run the football. It'd be nice if the Packers would pass a little bit more sometimes, especially, but both teams want to run. And here, I think that is advantage Detroit because here's the numbers. Lions offense, 8th in DVOA rushing the ball versus 16th Packers defensively. So top quarter of the league versus league average, advantage Detroit. Well, when Green Bay is the ball, it's about the opposite. They're 17th rushing. So again, average. The Lions are top 10. And again, we don't know what Jacobs will be able to give. So I think that's advantage both ways for Detroit. Lions are also number 2 most frequent attacking middle of the field, top 10 EPA per play there. That's an area the Packers have not been great. Their linebackers can be hit or miss. They're 27th in EPA per play and a lot of volume. Middle of the field, also a lot of short passes. And of course, that's where Detroit loves to live too. Their number 1 EPA per play, high frequency. That is Amon-Ra St. Brown. It's Jahmyr Gibbs. It's check down city and let those guys go to work. And I just think that is what Detroit is built to do here. So these are actually the top 2 defenses at home this season. Well, only one team is at home on Thanksgiving. That, of course, is Detroit. We know year after year. The Packers on the road are 22nd by DVOA defensively. So a huge drop-off for them from second all the way to almost bottom 10 there. So I like the spot for Detroit. Of course, the stat we always have to mention when it's a Detroit home game, Jared Goff with the Lions indoors, 36-14-1 ATS, 72%. The Lions have now won 10 straight games by 6 or more. So if this does get back to Lions -3, I'm still playing that number as well. I don't really get too daunted by that. And then a couple Thanksgiving trends here. I always have those on these games. You fade the Lions when they're underdogs. You bet them as favorites. That's what the last 2 decades have told us. 4-10 against the spread. Detroit as an underdog. 4-2 ATS as a favorite, covering almost by a touchdown a game. And of course, you take anyone but Dallas as the favorite on Thanksgiving. 31-11 ATS, 74% cover rate by over 6 points a game. So Lions -2.5. Obviously, get it below the key number if you can, as always. And probably, too, maybe the last chance to buy Detroit in the division as non-favorites. They're plus 170. This obviously is a huge game for that because they're facing Green Bay. They can't lose this one. Green Bay would get the sweep. That's not good news. But Chicago, we'll get to on the Friday game, touchdown underdogs. So if the Lions win as favorites, the Packers lose, and the Bears lose, that's going to obviously dramatically change the division outcome as well. So I think that's kind of a good escalator play here if you do like the Lions. But give me Detroit at minus 2.5.
To me, the most interesting thing in the game is the fact that both teams are missing their tight ends, and tight ends that are like really vital to different parts of their offense, whether it be third down, whether it be first downs. Like Laporta and Kraft are very, very good players, and really, really like what they do for the offense. I feel like the motor that lets them move downfield is going to be kind of the key here. So interesting to see what happens there. I mean, since 2017, Packers 4-12-1 ATS versus the Lions, and that's even with the Week 1 beating of Detroit. So kind of interesting there. But to me, the thing I wanted to talk about was Montgomery. So I love the rush attempts here because I feel like Gibbs will get his work, but I think some of that will be in the pass game. So Montgomery's had over 9.5 rush attempts, 8 straight versus Green Bay, and touchdown in 4 of the last 6 versus the Packers. So I do feel like that bet interesting nonetheless. The thing that I saw when looking at the Lions box score, a little more Montgomery in the pass game. 16, 17 routes the last few weeks. Hadn't been seeing that. A lot more of Gibbs, obviously. So found that kind of intriguing.
Yeah, so I'm actually in on Lions running backs here on both passing and rushing. So look, I wanted Lions running backs last week. I said I leaned Gibbs and then didn't pull the trigger, and then Gibbs put up like 1,000 yards on the Giants. So no can do here, but it looks like Gibbs seems to be the guy with Dan Campbell calling plays. Montgomery last 2 weeks, only 5 carries and 6 carries in those games. But the snaps are still there. It's been a bit negative game script. And I think, too, I thought Gibbs last week because they were better running outside against the Giants, which we saw come to fruition. Well, this matchup, the Packers are much worse defending inside rounds, 25th by EPA per play versus 6th outside. Detroit's better inside, and that to me smells like Montgomery. Like you said, he's been the guy against Green Bay. And just in 5 games since Gibbs was drafted, which I think is fair to limit the sample here, Montgomery's had 11, 14, 15, 17, and 32 carries. So almost 18 carries a game, 68 yards. Not great on the yardage. So I'm not going to go crazy with the yards bet here. And I thought, okay, give me the rushing attempts. So 10 rushing attempts is what I looked at. But that's minus 125. I don't love the median outcome there, especially pretty well juiced with the lower roll lately. But in 30 games since Gibbs was drafted, where Montgomery's had double-digit carries, he has a touchdown 23 of those, so about 3/4 of the time. And he also has 5 touchdowns in 5 Packers games as well in that stretch. So I'll play the touchdown for Montgomery at plus 140. And then I will play rushing attempts, just the higher line, 15 attempts at 7-1. Take a bit of an upside swing there and hope that if that run game is going well inside, if we're right, let's really be right. So that's the Montgomery play. I do like Gibbs. I just like him as a receiver in this game. So the Packers have allowed 4 receptions or more to a running back, to all running backs, I should say, in 8 of 11 games this season. What's weird is they've actually allowed exactly 4 or 5 in all but one of those 8 games. The one is Detroit, who had 14 running back catches in week 1 against the Packers, including 10 by Jahmyr Gibbs. Gibbs is actually getting more snaps lately. And you mentioned Montgomery's routes are up. Gibbs' routes are even further up. That, to me, is a Sam Laporta thing. They got to funnel routes somewhere, and I think they're using these guys even more as receivers. Gibbs has had 2 straight weeks now where he's the second highest line in first read target shares, presumably behind Amon-Ra St. Brown, because that's how it goes. But he's kind of become their second receiver. Jameson Williams still hasn't become that. He's the big play guy, but Gibbs is getting a lot of volume. So he's had all 3 of his seasons now, 4 games with 5 or more receptions. So we'll play that 5 receptions at plus 150. Gibbs also has 5 games now where he's had at least 7 catches, including that Packers game week 1. And last week, he had 11 catches against the Giants. So I will play 7 Gibbs catches at 6-1 odds as well. So Montgomery for rushing volume and the touchdown. Gibbs receptions escalator 5 and 7.
Yeah, I think some of those angles you're discussing will be good for the props, futures, Thanksgiving special section as well. When you're looking at most yards, most this, most that, I think losing Laporta in that offense kind of creates an opportunity, but we can talk about that in a minute. The other one, David Montgomery, 2 touchdowns, 9-1 at DraftKings, kind of like that as well. I feel like they usually go one way or the other. It's been a lot of Gibbs lately. Like I feel like inside runs, they can give Montgomery 2 touchdowns, especially without Laporta in the red zone. All right.
Yeah, I'm never going to begrudge a 2 touchdown touch if I'm on the 1 touchdown. Weird thing with Montgomery, if you look at his game log, he just has 1 touchdown, exactly 1, game after game after game. So I don't know what's happening with that, but 9-1, I can't argue with that in a game here where we're hoping he does find the end zone once. I can never be upset about a little escalator play.
And I might be wrong about this, but I feel like it was either last year that they on Thanksgiving he got up there and didn't eat the turkey or wouldn't eat the turkey, and there was some like viral clip about that. So we'll make sure to get that back again when he scores 2 this week. All right, let's keep going here. KC Dallas. So KC's sitting at like 3.5 over under, highest on Thanksgiving and Black Friday at 52.5. We had talked about it before. Dallas, a popular pick, sitting at 69% of bets for us. 62, 63% at DraftKings. What are you doing in this crucial game for both teams? Real fun one. This might be the most like watched game of all time, honestly. These 2 teams.
Yeah, it might be. And certainly both teams helped it out. With the Chiefs get the comeback win against the Colts, Dallas gets the huge comeback against the Eagles. And because of that, this line ends up kind of sticking really with Dallas. But like I said, I'm on the Chiefs here. Still some -3s out there, so I will happily take it at the key number. I'm not going to be too upset if I have to play it past that number, as I already took that on the look ahead. So Dallas got the big Philly upset. I feel like that is what's happening to the line here. But I thought the Chiefs were actually even more dominant in their game against the Colts. 494 yards to 255 in that game, 33-10 in first downs. 10 first downs for a Colts offense that's been so good. 91-50 plays. They held the Colts to 20 points on 11 drives. These are all numbers we said Sunday night, but are helpful to remember again of just how good a win that was for the Chiefs. And so I think that's being a little bit overlooked because, you know, we all got to watch more of Dallas Philly. There was nothing else on in the afternoon, and we saw the huge comeback, so it resonates more. But I thought Kansas City, probably that was their best game of the season. And that's sort of what the Chiefs do, is that they peak late in the season. That's what they've done now year after year. And the Chiefs offense still doesn't really feel great, but I think they're still better. By the numbers, DVOA, they're better running and passing than Dallas here. And I think it doesn't feel great because they never take the home run swing, right? And we want Mahomes to be fun. We want him to do the 6 touchdowns on Thanksgiving thing. And it's not a lot of home run swings. It's single. It's just move the ball, move the chains. But against this defense, I think that's going to work. The Chiefs are top 5 in success rate. Dallas is 31st in success rate defensively. So that to me reads like an offense that can just run the ball on first down. Oh, 2nd and 5, run the ball again, 3rd and 2. Oh, another 3rd down conversion. Like, it's going to be boring, but that is what the Chiefs do, is that they got 6 times into the red zone against the Colts. They would have won comfortably. They were just 1 of 6. So hopefully we get some better red zone production here. And honestly, I think the Chiefs might hit the deep ball as well. They are top 7 EPA per play on deep passes, and the Cowboys are 2nd worst there as well. So I know there's a lot of talk about Dallas defense improving. Okay, well, since the bye week, since Quinnen Williams, who have they played? They played the Raiders, who have since fired their offensive coordinator because they scored 10 points last week. So let's maybe not make too much of beating up on the Raiders. And they played the Eagles, who we've dumped on all season for having inconsistent offense, and who, by the way, started touchdown in that game. So is Dallas improved? Yes, absolutely. Improvement does not necessarily mean great or even good yet. I think they're better. Like, the Chiefs defense is also improving at the same time this year, as good as they just looked against the Colts. And so I think that they're set up well. The Chiefs allowed 3 receiving touchdowns in the opener to the Chargers in Brazil. They've only allowed 3 since then. So if you can limit Pickens and Lamb If you can play a lot of 2-high safety, which is what Spags usually does with the Chiefs, Dallas has blown up single high this year, but I don't think they're going to get as many of those opportunities. And I just think this sits well for the Chiefs here. So time-honored tradition on Thanksgiving, we fade the Cowboys. That's like the easiest play on the entire NFL slate most years. Since 2011, Cowboys are 3-11 ATS on Thanksgiving, 21%, because like you said, Evan, everyone wants to bet on the Cowboys on Thanksgiving. So they are not the team to bet on. Non-Dallas favorites, 74% ATS on Thanksgiving. And I thought, honestly, since it's the Chiefs, we'd get a public favorite spot here. Doesn't sound like we are. So public non-Dallas favorites, 80% ATS. Doesn't seem like we're going to go that direction. I don't really care. I'm comfortable with the Chiefs either way. Give me the Chiefs -3.
Yeah, you don't care at all. I've heard that multiple times. I mean, listen, when you talk about road favorites on Thanksgiving, 25-1 straight up since 2004. Only loss coming back in 2009. So that one is kind of held true. And it's been talked about. We talked about in the favorites this morning, like home teams on Thanksgiving, maybe not as much of a home field advantage, like other things going on. The road Thanksgiving stuff, especially a better team in that situation, 20-6 against the number as well. Interesting spot here with Mahomes. So Mahomes faced a team on short rest. Obviously, Mahomes on short rest as well, regardless of he is as well. He's 19-3 in his career. He's won 13 straight. Last loss coming in 2021. So regardless of if he's on Thursday or whatever it is, when his opponent doesn't have enough time to prepare for Kansas City, he's won 13 straight. And to go with your angle on Kansas City, the one thing I might look at, I'm a little scared of Cowboys' second half. I mean, Dallas 1-7 against the first half spread on Thanksgiving since 2017, 2-13 last 15 since 2010. And you get that under 3. So KC -2.5 first half. So maybe that's a look. And then in terms of the props, I kind of like where you're headed here because this guy has been the focal of the offense. What are you doing there?
Yeah, I want Chiefs passing overs here. So Rashee Rice, I think, is here talking about, and Patrick Mahomes. I got a couple of props on each. And I'll say this. These are probably my least favorite props of the ones I'm going to give out just because they're really juiced. I think everyone wants to bet against Dallas and everyone wants to play overs on Thanksgiving. So the juice is pretty rough on these, but I still think they're pretty good. Rashee Rice as a touchdown guy, that's where I'm going to go with this one. Dallas has allowed 18 wide receiver touchdowns already this season, 3 more than any team, especially to wide receiver ones. 12 touchdowns in 11 games. So obviously better than 1 per game, including 2 and 3 touchdown games. 8 of 11 wide receiver ones have had at least a score against the Cowboys. That's clearly Rashee Rice. He is the wide receiver 1 in Kansas City. He's scored a touchdown in 3 of 5 this year, 5 of the last 7 now. And also, I think he's actually due for more scoring. He has already 8 targets inside the 10-yard line. That ranks 3rd among all receivers for the entire season. He missed the first 5 games, and he's 3rd in targets inside the 10. Who's he behind? Devontae Adams and Amon-Ra St. Brown, who have 19 combined touchdowns on their targets inside the 10. Rashee Rice has 3. So that's the sort of volume that he's seeing and should be getting more of. It's already priced in a little bit. It's -125, so you're not going to see me play a touchdown bet like that too often, but he's the guy I like here. And then, like you said, with the 2 touchdowns, 5-1. Anytime you play 1 touchdown, you should think about 2. And then I think Mahomes as well. Dallas has allowed the most passing touchdowns, 24 of any team. 7 of 11 games, at least 2. 5 of 11, so almost half, at least 3 touchdowns, including such luminaries as Bo Nix and Caleb Williams putting up 4 passing touchdowns on them. Weird Mahomes numbers this year. He's only had 4 games all season with more than 1 passing touchdown. That's not an MVP season. But when he does go over 1, he's not had any 2 touchdown games all year. He goes straight for the big game, 3, 3, 3, and 4 touchdowns. So I'm going straight for the big game too. 3 touchdowns for Mahomes is +154. And again, these are pretty juiced numbers considering the past. Like the Chiefs offense, where we're sort of betting on the Chiefs looking like what we think the Chiefs should look like. That's not how they usually play this year, but they don't usually get to play the Cowboys. So I'm kind of hoping that evens things out and gives us a little value on Rashee and on Mahomes.
Yeah, and you get Pacheco back, hopefully. So that probably takes away the ability of maybe a Mahomes scramble for a touchdown that would ruin your three. So you assume all of them would come through the air. The stat that you had, which I had as well, which just shows how like the offense is all around Rashee Rice. Rush attempts plus targets. Inside the 10 since week 7, Rashee Rice has 10, Kareem Hunt has 10. Kelsey 4, Richard 4, Pacheco 3. So Rice tied with Hunt in rush attempts and targets inside the 10 since week 7 when he came back. So to me, he is everything for them in that window. And I think honestly, for some of us, probably everything we thought Worthy might be this year is kind of what Rashee Rice is at the moment. So also Dallas 30th versus wide receiver 1's DVOA. So this one to me just feels like they're going to try to get him the ball in every situation. And it's like, it's pivotal time. There's no, not running plays, not doing this. Like Kansas City needs to win to stay in it. So you're going to see the kitchen sink, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think so. Should be a really good game.
All right,
like,
let's keep
like
going
you said,
here.
we might have set a record
Bengals
on that one.
and Ravens. It's the night game. Ravens right now sitting 7-point favorite, 51.5. The thing that it's worth bringing up is probably looking at the weather. It is about 11 mile an hour winds, and you're going to get a cold game. It's about 32 degrees in Baltimore that night. And of course, the story is Joe Burrow. Welcome back. Most likely anticipated to start in this one. And other than that, I mean, what are you doing here? How are you attacking this AFC North matchup where, I mean, the Bengals pretty much done, but the Ravens needed for their lungs?
Yeah, this is a really tricky one for me. So I'm going to do a parlay here. I'm going to play the under with a Ravens cover. And I do see a book where I can get an under 51.5 and a Ravens -6.5. Get below that key number if we can at plus 266. So let me tell you how I got there. And it's kind of tricky. So obviously, like you said, Burrow looks like he is back, but no T. Higgins and no Trey Hendrickson. So you'll rather take Burrow if you get either side of that equation, but those are real losses for them as well. And then why is it tricky is we don't really know what Burrow will be, but we don't really know what Lamar is going to be right now either. He's not playing like himself. The Ravens have won 5 in a row, so we're kind of just be like, oh, the Ravens are back now. But last 3 wins, 1-score wins over the Vikings, the Browns, and the Jets. Like, it's not exactly blowing teams away or really impressing. All right, well, 1-score win is going to be a Bengals cover, so I'm on the Ravens side. So Bengals offense trending up. We were the Bengals podcast last week. We got the cover. We took the cover then. Top 5 DVOA offensively last 6 games. And of course, we know how good Burrow is as an underdog. 17-3 ATS as a dog of 3 or more. He's won outright 8 of the last 13. Normally, I'm just all over this spot, including in this rivalry. 4 of the last 5 meetings have been 1-score games. The last 2 years are averaging 63 points a game. So what in the world am I doing taking the Ravens favored and the under here when this looks like a shootout? So the Bengals offense wasn't that great against the Patriots last week. Trust me, I watched a lot of it. That was my big spot. And Burrow, I think, is kind of variable. We don't really know what we can expect from him. He does, when he's not whole, limit the offense a little bit, the sort of play calling that they can call around him. There's no T. Higgins, so that adds a variable in as well. And also, the offense has been way better at home. Top 5 offense at home, bottom 5 on the road for this season. Baltimore, meanwhile, as much as we focus on Cincinnati's offense improving, Baltimore's defense has trended way up. We kind of forget, but they were the Bengals defense early in the season. Like, they were the team that was just like, play anyone you can in fantasy against them. Since the bye week, their top 5 defense, 13.4 points a game allowed in these 5 games that they've won. And the Bengals offense, I think, is a bad matchup versus the Ravens as well on Baltimore's behalf. The Bengals face the most too high safety of any team in the league, but they're 30th in EPA per play on that. And Baltimore, since moving Cal Hamilton around, I think that's an area they've been really good at, especially, is playing too high, trying to limit some of those deep balls and getting picked apart that way. So to me, you mentioned the weather. I do think that comes into play here, that the weather, a blustery night, cold game, that's a Ravens script to me. That is a run the ball script. And the Bengals honestly should be able to run a little bit, but kind of refuse to commit to it. I think this is a good spot for the Ravens to run. Bengals, number 1 in yards allowed to running backs, number 1 in fantasy points. I was all ready to just do Derrick Henry props, but they're like juiced to high heaven. So you got to pay like minus 200 for a touchdown, basically 100 yards if you want the yardage. But the Bengals play a ton of light box defensively, and they're dead last in EPA per play. Baltimore never gets to face light boxes. If they get that here, they're second lowest in the league, but they're number 2 EPA per play when they do get the shot. So I think Bengals, I don't trust them to be able to stop the run. They're also worse against outside run, where Baltimore is at its best so far on the season. Bengals all a ton of explosives. The Ravens early in the season hit a ton of explosives, and that sort of dried up, but maybe this is the spot that they find a few. And then the Thanksgiving trends is really kind of what got me to the spot where I'm at, which is, again, non-Dallas favorites on Thanksgiving, 74%. In night games alone, 14-4 against the spread favorites, 78%. And night game unders have also been the spot, 12-6 on Thanksgiving evening, including 8 of the last 10 going under. Now, these teams are over teams. They're both 7-4 to the over on the season, and they've been over in the matchup lately. But I think if you look big picture and say, okay, if I think the Ravens do well, what did they do well and why? I think they limited the Bengals offense in a way that was unexpected. The road offense missing T. Higgins, and they kind of ran the ball, did the cold weather thing, got out ahead. And in that case, if the Bengals aren't scoring what's expected, then you like the under, and then the Ravens have a better shot to cover. So I'm going to play them both together tepidly, but Ravens minus 6.5, under 51.5. It's plus 266, and I think I'll back the trends, but I'm going to play them together and not super aggressively.
Yeah, so I'll touch the total first. Obviously, you mentioned it, over 8-1 in their last 9 meetings in this series. But to me, one of those 9 had a total of even 49 or more. You're getting 51.5 right now, which gets vital when you get up there when you talk about 2.5 points plus. So understand the angle there. Talking about Baltimore, I thought this was kind of interesting. So cold temperatures, obviously Burrow does fine in that, but Lamar's played at home 35 degrees or less 6 times, 6-0 straight up, 6-0 against the spread, winning by almost 20 points per game. So Baltimore really dominated in that space. I think you're right, though. This Baltimore team right now, a little different. Lamar's ankle looks weird. The offense can't get it together. It honestly looks like they have switched teams from the beginning of the season when you talk about defense and offense. And right now, they just can't get it right, which this will lead me to one of my bets I like for the Thanksgiving specials. But I think this is a Derrick Henry type game. Like, I just think at any point, this will be the time against his Cincinnati pass rush without Hendrickson out there. Like, there's no need for Lamar to go crazy. So I do think this is a Henry game. And that, with that, is perfect for Baltimore to cover as a favorite and for the game to go under. So completely get that. What do you got for your props here?
Yeah, I would love, I don't mind if you want to do like a Henry 100 yards and a touchdown and a win. That was a bet that I made often last year, but that I think is only actually hit once this season for them. So just not quite the same Derrick Henry. Maybe this is where he kind of moves back that direction. Because the lines were so bad, I ended up looking, where else can I invest in Baltimore if I like them here? Well, it's the Bengals, so how about a tight end? The Bengals continue to be awful against tight ends. They've allowed the most fantasy points. They're worst by DVOA. Worst against short passes. The Bengals have already allowed 13 touchdowns to tight ends on the season, which is more than any team allowed all of last season. In fact, they've allowed 11 the last 7 games alone. So which tight end? Well, Ravens fans would beg you, not Mark Andrews. The dude can't catch anything right now. I'm taking Mark Andrews. Isaiah Likely, not totally healthy right now. So Andrews did drop a big one last week, like he is known to do at times. But he also played his most snaps since week 6, about 2/3 of the snaps, a little bit more in 11 personnel, a little bit more in the field, and he still is Lamar's guy, I think, in the red zone. So Andrews has a touchdown in 4 of 8 games with Lamar Jackson this year, now 14 of his last 20, so 70%. We get him at plus 125. I'll take Andrews for the touchdown. And then this one is kind of just counter everything I've said about the game. But it's hard to overlook what Jamar Chase did to the Ravens last year. In those 2 games, lest you forgot, 10 catches, 193 yards, and 2 scores. But wait, that's just one of the games. The other one, 11 catches, 264 yards, and 3 scores. Remember that? We all watched that one. I think it maybe was a Thursday night game. That's like 450 yards and 5 touchdowns. That's half a season for most good receivers. So I obviously don't expect that to happen. I would not parlay this pick with my Ravens and under because it's very much against the script. But Chase does hit that big number sometimes, 141 yards or more, 8 times the last 3 seasons. So if that is right, I'll take 150 yards at 7-1. And again, I'm not going to add that you get a huge negative boost into your same game parlay. You put that in, but you shouldn't. If Chase hits 150 yards, I don't like the under and I don't like the Ravens covering. So don't put that in, but I don't mind playing it because if I'm wrong about Ravens under and covering, maybe it's because Burrow and Chase were that good again. And then this kind of gives a bit of insurance on the other side. So Chase, 150 yards at 7-1, and then Mark Andrews for a touchdown.
I don't mind like 125 and the Ravens to cover in the under, but I understand what you mean. And I said that quietly because I understand what you're saying, but it is an interesting concept because Chase could go off and the Bengals still could not be in this game late for a multitude of reasons. If you look at the last 3 games, Chase has played without T. Higgins, 17 targets, 11 targets, 11 targets. So you assume he's going to be peppered here, and 4 receptions on 6 targets in the first half of all 3 of those games. So early on, it's going to be all Jamar Chase here, especially after getting the week off considerably. So that is completely true. And then the Mark Andrews angle, this is what I thought saw kind of interesting, which would be 7 receptions on 8 targets in the fourth quarter of the last 2 games versus the Bengals. So even if you don't see it early from Lamar, like when it comes to tooth to nail in this one, he's going to go to Andrews for a multitude of reasons, especially Andrews, like you said, a lot more time out there in terms of pass snaps than likely lately. So I believe that will continue. All right, let's keep going here. This is going to be the fun one. Thanksgiving specials, long shots, however you want to do it. I'll let you go first because I kind of have a few different angles here, and I'll let you kind of quick hit me with you like it or you hate it. So
if you want to just do a Thanksgiving parlay with the picks I've put out already, so Lions 2.5, Chiefs 3, and then the Ravens combo, Ravens cover and the under. So you're taking all 3 favorites plus the Ravens under. If you just want to parlay that together, that is at plus 1235. So you can start there, but then DraftKings has a bunch of these really fun specials up. You can bet on most passing yards on Thanksgiving, most receiving yards. I like 2 of the receiving yards ones. I'm going to play the most running back receiving yards and the most tight end receiving yards, and they shouldn't surprise you. I'm going to take Jahmyr Gibbs and Mark Andrews. So Gibbs, plus 190 for most running back receiving yards. We're already on him to get volume there. Chase Brown, I think, is probably the biggest threat, but really not a lot of great competition there. So I like that one a lot. Andrews, yards, not been great this year. You're not going to enjoy looking at his game log, but 4-1 against the Bengals. Basically, I'm just going to take a shot at the number and the matchup with Andrews and maybe turns back the clock and gets a long catch or 2. And then last one for me, I love on Thanksgiving to do the Triple Crown. So passing, rushing, and receiving yardage leaders. So Derrick Henry is like the free space to me as far as like I'm starting there at least with him on this one. And then I'm going to go with both Chiefs. So we played them as well, Mahomes and Rashee. I'll play them together. Obvious correlation that if Mahomes' yardage is high, Rashee probably goes up as well. So after DraftKings, the 2 Chiefs plus Derrick Henry is 40-1 for the Triple Crown. So those are the 3 I found. What do you like from what you're seeing?
Yeah, so you explained kind of all the intricacies of each of these categories. Most QB rushing yards, Lamar still sitting at plus 125 with this group. Like, I just don't feel he hasn't been running lately. Everything feels off in terms of his run game every single week. There is nothing on the field that tells you to make this bet, except for the fact that everyone else just doesn't feel like he could get 30 yards and win this. And he's plus 125. Just feels off priced. When you mentioned most rushing yards, I also feel like Derrick Henry's kind of mispriced. And it's also really fun because he's the night game. So you at least get to know what you need and can watch that game in the freezing cold. Hopefully gets a ton of carries, but that's sitting at like 2-1. The other one I like in that category is longest field goal. So Aubrey's sitting at 220 and McPherson at 425. Either hits, you make money, but I kind of like both of those options. You mentioned Andrews for tight end receiving yards. I didn't see Gesicki even listed. They've got Fenton Hudson. I thought that's just an interesting option. He is TE1. He should be out there, get the most of the looks. You have Burrow back. So wait to see a number there. If it's like 20-1 or something like that, maybe that's worth a shot. Here's a good thing. So I also looked at the Triple Crown market. You and I are on the same page with the quarterback, which feels good. I like Mahomes as well. Instead of Rashee Rice, I went a little bit off. I went Amon-Ra. I think there is a chance he could go nuts in this game, especially without Laporta and what maybe they fall behind to Green Bay. So I like Amon-Ra. And then I used 3 different running backs. I agree Henry's the best option. 35-1 would be Pat, Amon-Ra, and Henry. I also put Gibbs there. If you put Gibbs there, he's 60-1. Obviously, the worry would be the receiving part, so he doesn't win the rushing title in this day. And then the off-brand one would be Chase Brown. Like I think there is a chance he's been rushing really well lately. Like there is a chance of that. That's 80-1. I like that the least. But I agree, Pat, Amon-Ra, Henry at 35-1, and yours of Pat, Rashee Rice, and Henry at 40-1. Those feel like the 2 ones I like the most.
Yeah, I think a lot of those make sense. I think probably, honestly, I should be playing the Henry rushing yards one, as confident as I am on him running in this game. And sure. I literally called him a free space in my Triple Crown spot. So at 2-1, that probably makes sense. I would say, too, on the kicking one, I noticed DraftKings has an over-under field goals on Thanksgiving. And then it's like they were just begging me to bet this. It's over under 10.5 field goals. And then there's a 12 plus and a 14 plus. They've created a field goals escalator for me on Thanksgiving. I would take it too, except the only thing holding me back a little bit is the weather at night, because Tyler Loop is kicking like 3 field goals a game for the Ravens right now. But because of the weather, I'm not going to go too crazy there. I counted in my head 12 is what I think the outcome will be. But to your 2 long field goal ones, I'm going to feel much better about Brandon Aubrey kicking a 70-yarder in Dallas in the middle of the day than I am McPherson on the road in Baltimore with the blustery winds and everything. So I think I would factor the wind in a little bit on that one. And I like the Aubrey look. We know he can hit from wherever.
Yeah, I think the other one would be Bates indoors. Like he can kick long ones. But yeah, those are the angles. Here, let me just throw out a few more and then I'll give you my absolute favorite and then we can move on. Under 18.5 total touchdowns. Felt like that's intriguing, especially with some of these totals to me are a little inflated and you could get some unders here. So under 18.5 felt a little high. Green Bay, Detroit. I think you can honestly play highest score, lowest score, and biggest blowout, and all at plus prices, because I think that game has just a lot of different variables in terms of how it could go. And then here are the 2 just kind of long shots, one more long shot than the other, but all teams to score a rushing touchdown at 8-1. I'll always bet that, especially in these cold weather months with these just 3 games. Feels intriguing. And here's the bet I like the most. And it kind of goes back to what we had talked about with Baltimore, but and it always feels like a sucker bet, but I have to play it. Derrick Henry, 10 plus rushing yards in each quarter is plus 300. And to me, it's a bet with probably 1 quarter. Like he's going to do it in the first quarter, in my opinion. I think the second quarter and the third quarter become the hardest. I think you're going to get 1.5 to 2 drives probably in both quarters. I think the third quarter is tricky depending on the coin toss. Okay, everyone understands the circumstances here, but I think Derrick Henry goes crazy, and I think there's at least an opportunity there. And plus 300 felt a little nice for this one, especially if I like his upside.
Yeah, I get burned on these every quarter things. Are you like in the NBA, you get the every quarters or the every game of a playoff series. They're fun and they make sense in theory, and you're parlaying 4 bets together. So
you got it.
I like the idea. We like investing in Derrick Henry, and we don't love the juice that we're getting in some of the numbers. So it's a good idea to kind of look for some of the longer stuff. And some of these too, I think that's just a fun bet. Like, you know what you're rooting for. It's the middle of the second quarter, and you're like, come on, 1 more possession. I need 6 more yards for my bet. Like, it's just kind of fun to have a little something different to root for as well. So I think that plays too.
All right, Black Friday time. Bears, Eagles. This spread's sitting at 7 right now. It seems to be coming down a bit. I wouldn't be shocked to see some 6.5s as we get closer to the game, but 44.5 total here. What are you doing with Bears, Eagles?
Yeah, I'm going to take a Bears team total over here. Give me the over 17.5 on the Bears. I think it's 18.5 at some books. Shouldn't really make too big of a difference for that one. Again, another blustery looking game. Weather in the low 40s, 15-mile-an-hour winds, a very Bears-Eagles sort of setup. So stay warm on Black Friday. Put up some Christmas decorations if that's your day, and watch some football. But look, I know both these teams we've talked about wanting to fade, but start with the Eagles offense. I don't really know what happens on that side of the ball. That's why I'm mostly avoiding it. They've been bottom 10 by success rate, but the Bears are missing like every linebacker. That seems really bad against the Eagles, no matter what they are. Bears are especially bad covering middle of the field and under center, but those are two things the Eagles really don't do. That's just not a Jalen Hurts spot attacking. They do attack deep pretty well. I don't know how the weather comes into play there, though. And of course, Lane Johnson out. So there's just a lot of randomness and variable that I don't really know what to expect on that side of the ball. I would lean Bears if I had to take a side, especially at the 7. I'm more like 4.5, 5 on Chicago. But I'm going to avoid that side of the ball and just go on the other side. Right now, everyone's all big on Eagles defense. They shut down the Packers and the Lions, and then they played the Cowboys and gave up 500 yards of offense almost. Pickens was a monster. Dallas ran the ball pretty well. And we talked this Sunday, Dallas killed them with play action specifically. And the Eagles have been bad against play action all year, and that is Ben Johnson's bread and butter. Second most play action in the league, top 10 EPA per play. The Eagles also play very heavy, light boxes. That is what Vic Fangio wants to do, is try to get you to beat him that way. That is where the Bears are at their best. Top 5 EPA per play. And we've talked over and over again how much that run game has improved since the bye week. The line especially is playing really well. So Bears team totals, I'm sure you'll have a stat here, but I know it's been very strong this season. They started out the year hitting that week after week. And because of, I think, the weather and the Eagles' defense perception, the line's really low here. The Bears have scored 19 or more points all but once this season. So they've hit the over to this line all but that one game. And I just trust Ben Johnson to find answers, even if they need it till halftime. I think the Bears will score. And look, if they score, if they go above this, I think they're maybe more live to steal this game than we probably expect that they would be going in. But I'll take a Bears over. And then real quick on a prop here, Devontae Smith receptions escalator. So a key matchup I looked at, the Eagles played the Saints last year, week 3, and they beat them 15-12. Okay, who cares? Well, I care because Dennis Allen was the defensive coordinator in that game. And the fact that they held the Eagles to only 15, and it took a last-second touchdown, really, for the Eagles to steal it, not great looking out for the Eagles here. But Devontae in that game, 10 targets, 7 catches, 79 yards. He keeps finding spots in the zone. And AJ was out that game and will play here. But the Bears have allowed a lot of fantasy points to receivers, top 5 in the league. But they're very good, actually, against wide receiver 1, and then kind of progressively worse down the line. So if we get a weather game, I think I prefer the short passing, the volume, and especially if Devontae can pick apart the zone a little bit. So he's had 6 or more catches in 5 of 9 games this year. I'll play that. I'll play 6 catches at plus 200, 8 catches at plus 690, and just hope that it's a Devontae kind of picking apart the spots on this defense. But otherwise, give me the Bears over the team total.
Yeah, you're kind of going with the script here. So I'll give you this. Bears 8-3 team total over. You had said it yourself, second best in the NFL. So they've been, going over, doing the Ben Johnson thing, doing well. I feel like this team total a little light considering you said it. Green Bay, Detroit, and some of the Dallas game, Philly's defense. But the thing that's interesting is this to me. So Philly's rush defense, second in EPA, but 16th in success rate. Well, what does that say? So they don't stop every run. But when they do, the stops are very impactful. Now, you would assume they're built to prevent explosives with that, but, not to win every 3-yard run. Now, Philly's rush defense this year allowed 11.5% explosive run rate, 21st in the NFL. And then you look at your stuff rate, which, right at the line of scrimmage, 28th. So basically, Chicago is 46.1% run plus this year. So basically, run the ball at 46%, 9th in the NFL. What I would say is just keep it up. Keep going. Keep doing your thing. I think they're going to be able to run the ball in this one. And again, given the wind, given the weather, cold game, I think Chicago has an advantage. So I'm completely with you. And I think, Manungai touchdowns, Swift will get some yards. I feel like Chicago has an advantage. And I think Ben Johnson's smart enough to use it.
Yeah, I think it should be a good one. We got a lot of fun games over the holiday.
All right, it is sides and leftovers time. So we're going to get through these quickly. Now we're moving to Sunday, Monday, things of that nature. So we will get to all the games here as quickly as possible. Steelers and Bills. What are you doing in this one?
Yeah, I think it's a Steelers spot. Steelers plus 4.5, and I'm going to play Steelers on the money line as well. Look, Bills are on extra rest after that loss to the Texans. Rodgers looks like he's probably going to play, but ailing. It feels like the Bills' bounce back spot, but I think it is a rah-rah Tomlin spot actually here. We know the numbers from week 5 forward, 52, 25, and 2 ATS as an underdog, 68% cover rate. That trend is usually better at home, check. After a loss, check. As a touchdown underdog or less, check. To me, this line is just way off. I priced this pretty close to a coin flip for Pittsburgh in Pittsburgh. And part of that is, let's talk about the road Buffalo Bills. So far this season, on the road, the Bills won comfortably against, hooray, the Jets and the Panthers. They lost in games we remember ugly to Atlanta, to Miami, to Houston, all on the road. Since the start of 2023, the Bills are now 11-12 straight up on the road. They are a losing record for this team that is a presumed juggernaut. And here are the 11 wins against quarterbacks. Patrick Mahomes, okay, that one counts. Jared Goff, Aaron Rodgers, all right. Tua twice, Geno Smith, Joe Flacco, Justin Fields, Andy Dalton, Sam Howell, and Easton Stick. That's the quarterbacks this team is beating on the road, and the numbers match it this year. Number 1 offense at home, basically league average on the road by DVOA. So again, yet another blustery-looking game, probably some precipitation as well. Emphasis run game. That should be good for Buffalo, but they're better running inside. Pittsburgh's defense is better defending inside. And on the other side of the ball, we know the Giants are the worst run defense in the league. Well, the Bills are the only team that's even close to the Giants that bad. They're 31st DVOA against the run, 30th on EPA per play. And Pittsburgh is suddenly top 10 rushing by EPA per play. Our guy Kenny Gainwell scored those touchdowns for us and suddenly looks like a real weapon. Like, they got 2 guys attacking now. And Bills, top 5 in pressure rate, and they force a lot of short passes. Well, that's good against a lot of teams, but Aaron Rodgers is key here. He just doesn't get pressured because he gets the ball out so fast. And the Steelers throw short more than anyone in the league, over 3/4 their passes, and they're pretty good at it. So I think that sort of plays right into what the Steelers want to do anyway. The Steelers also play the least 11 personnel in the league. That's where Buffalo is defended best. Buffalo is bottom 5 EPA per play against 12 personnel and 21, which is where the Steelers play way more than most teams. So I think the matchup really favors the Steelers here. If we go run heavy, that should shorten the game and keep things close. This looks under to me. Allen and McDermott, road under is usually a thing as well. Couple more trends to wrap this one up. Steelers, after they allow more than 28 points, 41, 17, and 2 ATS, 71% the last couple decades. And then one more Tomlin stat. As a home dog of 7 or less from week 5 forward, 19, 5, and 1. 79% cover rate by over a touchdown a game. Steelers spot all the way. Steelers plus 4.5, and I'll touch the money line at plus 175.
And you definitely have Mike Tomlin's attention. Pittsburgh's been losing. Pittsburgh has really struggled with Buffalo lately. 1-4 straight up ATS last 5. They've lost 69-20 their last 2 games versus Buffalo. And this will be their 5th straight game as an underdog versus Buffalo. All of them in Buffalo, this one in Pittsburgh. Definitely have Tomlin's attention, so his team will be as ready as possible for this one. All right, let's keep going here. Jets, Falcons. Can't believe it's number 2 on the rundown, but here we go. What are you doing?
Yeah, I told you, Sunday's not going to be pretty, and we are apparently backing the Jets a second straight week. Give me the Jets plus 2.5. Look, I'd prefer to wait for a 3, so we might get that. You may want to wait and see if a 3 pops, but I'll take the 2.5 here. Again, broken record here, but another windy game, another run-heavy, low-scoring game, total below 40. So the Jets have a huge special teams advantage here. They're number 1 by DVOA. The Falcons are bottom 5. That matters even more in windy conditions and where every point's going to matter. So I think that is worth mentioning. And then just the way the matchup goes here, Jets run defense is really their one strength as a unit. Well, that's the perfect matchup against the Falcons. And they're also better defending outside runs where the Falcons run more than any team in the league. So I think that's kind of a push in that direction. And meanwhile, I think the Falcons defense is probably the best unit on the field, but that's mostly against the pass. They're bottom quarter of the league against the run, and that's what the Jets want to do is run the ball all game. And I think, too, even when they don't run, the switch to Tyrod Taylor is helpful here because the Falcons have gotten huge pressure, and I trust Tyrod to get the ball out a little easier than I would have trusted Justin Fields. So I just think Jets' biggest strength, running, stopping the run, and special teams, perfect for this matchup in the weather. Tyrod as an underdog, 66% ATS in his career. And then since 2018, when the total's below 42, you want underdogs of 4 or less, 56% against the spread. We said it last week. The Jets are keeping these games close. Even against the Ravens, it was a one-score game in the fourth quarter. That's now 9 of 11 games the Jets have been within one score. I think they're the right side here. Again, I would actually make the Jets favorites in this game. So I'll play Jets plus 2.5, and I'll go one step further. Not even just the money line. Maybe I'm going like 3 steps further. So I noticed a while back, if you have a team that is under a 3-point home underdog and you like them to win outright, we've seen that in the last decade 134 times where the team won, 82 of those times, so 61%, that team won by at least a full touchdown, 7 or more points. 6 of the 7 Jets wins since the start of last year by 7 or more points. So I'm going to skip the money line and go more aggressive. Jets alt minus 6.5 plus 288. This game is terrible, like you said, but if we're going to pay attention to these games on Sunday, why can't the Jets beat up on Kirk Cousins and whatever's left of the Falcons and send them to the grave? Jets plus 2.5 and Jets alt by 7 or more.
Yeah, I think we hope no Drake London if you're looking at the Jets here, but we'll see as we get closer to the weekend. You mentioned Tyrod Taylor loves covering the spread. He really does. 6-0-1 ATS last 7, and this is his specialty. When his team is under 500, he's 16-5 against the spread, 11-2 as an underdog. So Tyrod, here we go. Also, Jets 4-2 ATS last 6. They've been in basically every game all year except for 2. And the Falcons outdoors, 11-20 since 2020, lost 6 straight. So not fantastic there. All right, let's keep going here. AFC South battle, Texans, Colts. This is an interesting one. Texans with a little bit of rest. Colts off of a pretty terrible loss. How you doing? How you dealing with it?
Yeah, I wanted to figure out a way to invest in the Colts here, but I'm going to get creative. So, yeah, it's a pretty big game on Sunday. The Colts are suddenly only up 1 on Jacksonville, 2 on Houston. Texans are riding high. They get the extra rest. It looks like CJ Stroud is finally back. This rivalry has been really close games lately. Texans have only won 1 of the last 6, but all but one of those are within 4 points. So, probably this is close and late. I'm not saying it's going to be super sexy and exciting to watch, but we'll probably be seeing it late in the witching hour. I like how the Colts defense matches up in this one. Number 2 EPA per play versus 11 personnel. Houston runs a pretty vanilla offense. So they run a lot of 11. Colts are better on single high. They're better on inside runs, best in the league actually against that. They kind of match Houston's tendencies. And frankly, Houston's tendencies are kind of easy to match. So on the flip side, I don't really want to invest too much in Daniel Jones against this Houston defense. We just saw what they did to Josh Allen. Why would I want Daniel Jones? Well, if I do want Colts, I'm going to like them better early. So I'm going to play Colts first quarter minus 0.5 point. So they actually have to win the first quarter. I'm going to lose a tie. It's plus 114. Here's the reason. Steichen's scripted offense. I can trust Daniel Jones for a couple drives. Can I trust the scripted stuff when they know what's coming and get ready? And so far this year, Colts defense is actually top 5 in the first quarter by DVOA, and Houston is bottom 10. Then it flips after that for both of those, and it goes back the other way. But to me, that's coaching and preparation for the Colts. It also means, in this particular matchup, 2 things. Number 1, we get some CJ Stroud rust early in the first quarter. We get to play that angle. And number 2, the Colts defense just was on the field for 91 plays against the Chiefs. No thank you to having anything to do with the Colts in the second half in case that comes back to haunt them. Let's get our money in the first quarter and get out of there. Colts 8-3 ATS in the first quarter, second best mark in the league. Texans 1-3 first quarter as underdogs. So I will play Colts first quarter. Again, it's minus 0.5 plus 114. If you want, you can play the money line. That's minus 148. Now you will get your money back in a tie. I am risking losing the tie because that's a pretty hefty margin in our favor that we actually have to win the quarter, but I'll take the plus 114 and play the more aggressive line.
Yeah, I like Badgley too. I think you have opportunities to take the lead. 7.2 points per game in the first quarter for Indy, tied for third best in the NFL. And this one's good. The question is, who leads the NFL in passing yards in the first quarter? Indiana Jones. Good one there. Scripted offense. Indy seems to be doing well. All right, 2 more here. What are you doing with New Orleans and Miami, because I was hoping not to touch this game, but you just bring me to the you just continue to bring me to the upside down, and I just continue to ask what we doing.
We're going to play the Dolphins. We're going to play the first half line here. So one more time, another windy looking game on Sunday. The Saints are really lacking weapons. It looks like Kamara is out, and we got like Taysom Hill is running apparently now the football at running back for them. Remember last week when we made Tyler Shuck a favorite? We made the Raiders a favorite too. Like that was really fun. This line feels more right to me. Miami is home off the bye week. I have them as more than a touchdown favorite, but I'm going to play first half. Miami's defense has been better of late. Top quarter of the league in DVOA, number 1 against the run last 6 weeks. So it's up to Shuck passing. I think both defenses are probably the better unit here in the matchup. So I would lean low. That doesn't make me love Miami laying the 6 here. The Dolphins defensively this year have been weak at short passing defensive and also giving up a lot of explosives. Well, the Saints are dead last in both of those areas. So that's not an area that they are really able to hurt them. This is another spot, too, in any NFC South game. You're probably going to have a huge special team advantage for the other side. Miami is top 5, Saints bottom 2. So again, with the windy conditions, that part matters, too. Saints defense, 25th on the road versus league average at home. So that's a bad spot for them here. And then they're also, as we know, Saints have been really bad early in games. In the first half, they're bottom 10 offensively versus top 10 in the second half, defensively. And in Miami has been much better offensively, 14th by DVOA in the first half, bottom 5 in the second half. So this is just this is when you back Tua and McDaniel is as the front runner, as the favorite against a bad team. And the Saints, you've said this stat a bunch of times this year, they're now 1-10 ATS in the first quarter. If you want just the first quarter, I can't really blame you. I'm going to give Miami the whole half to be the better team. Saints are 3-8 ATS in the first half. They're 7-4 second half. So I'm going to get out and avoid that part. But a trend that pushed me toward the half instead of the quarter. Home favorites of 7 or less after a bye week in just the first half. 86, 66, and 22 ATS, 57% cover rate. So good spot to look at the home favorite first half coming out of the bye week. And Miami minus 2.5 in the first half line. You get below the key number that way as well. So again, you can play the money line if you prefer. Look, if you're playing like a minus 160 juice because you're afraid of it, to me, that's the sign you just skip the play. I'm going to take the more aggressive line. I'm going to hope that the Finns lead by at least a field goal, and then we'll just not even have to pay attention in the second half of these games. Like you said, we don't want to watch this one anyways. Let's just get our money and get home.
Yeah, that's the goal. Tua and McDaniel, 17-10 first half ATS at home. They are above 500 first half ATS in all 6 months of the season, too. No matter when it is, they seem to perform. 15-6 first half ATS on normal rest or more at home. So seems like a good spot overall. All right, last prop here. This one is, you're not just taking the best player ever. You're taking the best player ever this season. So what are you doing with them?
Yeah, I got to get a Jackson Smith and Jigma prop in here. So I just want to play a receiving yards escalator, and there aren't even lines yet. So I'm just going to prep you to play it once they post. So it's kind of a messy game. JJ McCarthy is supposedly in concussion protocol now, which, shocker that McCarthy just happens to be injured again right before on the road in Seattle. Looks like it's Max Brosmer season. So good luck to the undrafted guy throwing him to the Wolves against this nasty defense. So on the other side, of course, it's Sam Darnold. So it's a reminder to the Vikings of just what they gave up. But I don't really know what we're going to get with Darnold. Does Brian Flores know Darnold tendencies? He's going to throw him off kilter. Or on the other hand, the matchup here is why I lean into JSN. The Vikings, bottom 5 DVOA against wide receiver 1, bottom 5 against deep passes, dead last EPA per play on deep passes. They don't allow a lot of them by volume, but Seattle's going to test them because Seattle, as all year, has been elite plus on deep passes, top 3 EPA per play, and top 3 by volume. So they go there early and often. And by God, that is JSN's music. He's already broken Seattle's franchise record in week 12. He's on pace for the all-time record. Do you know that he has 93 yards or more all but one game this season? And in that, quote, bad game was 79 yards. It's a heck of a season. 100 yards or more in 8 of 11. Last week, the line was 96.5. So whatever we're going to get, I'm looking basically at 100 yards, and then maybe some alts, maybe do like 100 and 150. But JSN, I think, just is in line to have a big game and to have Vikings fans crying to their pillows about missing Sam Darnold on Sunday.
I mean, my only worry in this at all is, and you've seen this stat probably floating around as well, like Darnold has under 300 pass attempts in 11 games. So just the ability to get JSN the ball in like a volume state, a double-digit favorite for Seattle. So Seattle's been favored by 6+ 3 times this year. Here's JSN's numbers. Obviously last week, 8 for 167 and 2. But then he did 5 of 93 and a touchdown and 5 of 96 and a touchdown against Arizona and New Orleans. So still there, but only 5 catches because, Seattle's up in the game. So I think to me that is literally the only worry. 5 games with fewer than 10 targets for JSN this year. Darnold's pass attempts, 22.8 in those 5 games. So literally that is it. Like, is there enough volume in the game to get JSN wherever you want? Because he's getting all the target share. We will have to see if the Brosmer can keep them in it for just a little bit, just a tiny bit. All right. We've done the main course, the entree. It was good. We've had the sides. Take me to dessert.
Yeah, so like I said, no look ahead this week, no lines yet. So how about a little futures long shot, a little tasty morsel to wrap up. So every week I always go through like Monday, Tuesday. Okay, what are all the futures out there? Let's look at the divisions, look at the menus. Let's take down the awards. So looking at the divisions right now, Colts, Bucks, Broncos all offer a slight amount of value, but those are all 3 teams that you're betting like a big minus number. And I don't really love the spot for any of those 3 this week. I think there's some value on the Bills at 5-1. But again, I can't be betting that. We're on Steelers to possibly beat the Bills this week. So I found 2 spots that I do see clear value. One should be pretty obvious. That would be the Lions. Plus 170, 37% implied versus 43% at FTN. And it's a big swing here. This is the Thanksgiving play. You beat the Packers. That's a +1 and a -1 for Green Bay. And then Chicago, touchdown underdogs in Philly, and then at Green Bay next week. So Lions beat the Packers here. And then hopefully, if you have the Lions ticket, Bears and Packers lose, and then they play each other next week. So one of them loses another game right away. So I think it's a good spot for Detroit. They play in Chicago week 18, who they beat by 31 last time. So probably you get at least a shot at this one in the final game. The other part, I'm going to parlay 2 of these together, is I'm going to do Steelers plus 360. And I know it's not going to feel comfortable because of all the Ravens stuff. But again, if you like the Steelers against the Bills, they get the Dolphins and the Browns. We'll see about a game in Detroit. But the other 2 games are against the Ravens, including week 18 in Pittsburgh. That screams last game of the year Sunday night. I think we're getting that, Pittsburgh and Baltimore. And again, gives you a shot in week 18. The Ravens have not been that great. We talked about that. Burrow, twice they get in the next few weeks. It's a rough stretch for them where other teams like the Steelers got to avoid that earlier this season. The Ravens still play the Patriots. They play the Packers. They can lose some games. It's plus 360 for Pittsburgh, implied 22%. FTN has it 31%. And if they win this week, the Steelers, and against the Bills, they could even be like closer to 50% again by the end of this week already. So this is a Thanksgiving feast division parlay. Lions and Steelers both together, plus 1324. That's about 7% implied. I have it more like 13%, so about double that. And I think it might even get up to like 25% if we're right about our Thanksgiving angles on these games. So 13-1-ish, Lions and Steelers. And if you want the really, really long number, a little like whipped cream on your pumpkin pie, you can add in Colts, Broncos, Bucks. Those are all the big favorites. And you get just over 30-1 at plus 30.77 and go with the big division parlay here. But Lions, Steelers, that's your dessert. Let's have some leftovers and enjoy Thanksgiving.
Here's the question. Colts, Broncos, Bucks. Which one would you kick out?
Which one would I kick out? Colts, Broncos, Bucks. I mean, as much smack as I've talked on them, I think it has to be the Broncos. I just can't feel good about the Broncos. I feel fine with the Bucks because I'm just betting against the Panthers. I feel mostly okay about the Colts because the Texans have a brutal schedule and I don't believe in the Jaguars. Denver's still got Kansas City coming. So I feel like Denver is who I would kick out if I had to boot one. And I believe you're still like 25-1 if you do that.
Yeah, it's a close one. I mean, if Carolina even would have stayed close last night, I want to kick out the Bucks, but I don't know if I can. All right. That'll do it here on the Action Network podcast for our NFL Week 13 Best Bets episode presented by DraftKings. If you want instant notifications when action experts track their bets, go to actionnetwork.com/pro. Get 50% off your first 3 months of an annual subscription of Action Pro. If you haven't yet, check out our new AI quick slip bot on X. Just tag Playbook at Playbook, tell it to grab whatever bets you're looking for, and it'll create a quick slip link for you in a matter of seconds. Super easy when you wake up Thursday morning and have to try to put in all your Thanksgiving bets before the 1 o'clock game. Just at Playbook on X, on Twitter. Super simple. And again, if you want to tell some of the bets we gave out today, make sure to look for the quick slip link in the podcast and video description, or go to actionnetwork.com/betnow, BETNOW. We will be back Sunday night for our NFL recap show right here, me and Brandon live on Action Network's YouTube page shortly after Sunday Night Football. Thank you for listening. Enjoy the slate. Eat everything you possibly can and all the tryptophan. Good luck with all your bets this weekend. Happy Thanksgiving. Happy Black Friday. See you guys Sunday night.